John Jack. Come on, please. I've already started, so let's go. This is Andrew Williams Jr. with Stuart Sinclair Weeks. And this is Conversations with Andrew Williams, and a truly Concordian conversation. But Stuart is going to take you to the grave of John Jackson, tell you what that's all about.
Thank you, Andrew.
Where am I going?
So, friends, we are at the Hillside Burial Ground. This is now being streamed. We're at the Hillside Burial Ground with a new old friend, Shelley Belton, who's a tour guide, and we are in front of the gravestone of John Jack. And I propose that we all read these words. They're very short, but Shelley, can you say something about where we are?
Well, this is really a very sacred place to us because John Jack worked many years for his freedom. And because he had worked for a cobbler, he was able to earn some money. And he approached a lawyer, Daniel Bliss, and asked if he could take care of his affairs. And it's at the time of his death that Daniel Bliss actually wrote this and dedicated it to him. And you will see that in the wording, I think there's a little bit of a dig, especially to the people at the time here, because they were slaves here. And everybody thought they weren't slaves up north, but they were. And so the words are very, very meaningful.
Can you read it first, Shelley?
Would you hold that?
Sure. And Shelley, she hails from South Africa. She's been known, rumor has it, to have had a dance with Nelson Mandela, having stood up to the bulldozers on behalf of her Black brothers and sisters.
So here it goes. God wills us free. Man wills us slaves. I will as God wills. God's will be done. Here lies the body of John Jack, a native of Africa, who died March 1773, aged about 60 years. Though born in a land of slavery, he was born free. Though he lived in a land of liberty, he lived a slave. Till by his honest, though stolen labors, he acquired the source of slavery, which gave him his freedom. Though not long before death, the grand tyrant gave him his final emancipation and set him on a footing with kings. Though a slave to vice, he practiced those virtues without which kings are but slaves. Rest peacefully, King. You are remembered. Your life and story matter to us.
Beautiful. May I take the script too? So I'm going to read it as well, and then I'm going to invite Calvin, who's with us. So I'm going to read it. So once again, should we let it resound once more? We've lost. Okay. So God wills us free. Man wills us slaves. I will as God's will. God's will be done. Here lies the body of John Jack, a native of Africa, who died March 1773, aged about 60 years. Though born in a land of slavery, he was born free. Though he lived in the land of liberty, he lived a slave. Till by his honest, though stolen labors, he acquired the source of slavery, which gave him his freedom. Though not long before, death, the grand tyrant, gave him his final emancipation and set him on a footing with kings. Though a slave to vice, he practiced those virtues without which kings are but slaves. And then can you read again the beautiful ending?
Rest peacefully, King. you are remembered. Your life and your story matter to us.
Amen. Amen. So this is for our Monday morning, Juneteenth gathering. We are at the old burial ground in Concord Center with John, Jack, and other souls that we hope are resting in peace. Thank you for joining us from near and far.
It's the wrong thing.
Can you, Sally, can you email me particularly the ending?
Yes,
Beautiful.
absolutely.
Those are your words.
Well, they actually just came up here on this. I just Googled it, but not on my page in my office, but I'd like to say that. Because it says he was made, though a slave to vice, he became a king. And he practiced those virtues without which king of that slave.
Thank you.
At death, the grand tyrant gave him his final emancipation and set him on a footing with kings. And that's why it says rest in peace.
Could you do us a favor and introduce yourself? And also, since we're also, please come on and then give us the hello welcome speech to our audience, please.
Well, hello. Welcome to Concord, Massachusetts. Here we are.
Who are you?
Oh,
Yes, do a Hollywood do-over. As you are.
Hello, my name is Shelley Belton, and I now live in Concord, Massachusetts, and this is where we are on this glorious day. We are at the Old Hill Burying Ground, which is the oldest burying ground in Concord. Since its founding in 1635. And today we honored John Jack and his gravestone here at the cemetery.
Can you tell us a little bit about the history you were sharing with Stuart? Or
Well, John Jack worked for a cobbler in town, a shoemaker. And when the shoemaker died, he said to, John Jack, it was left in the world that he has to work another 7 years for the widow and work for his freedom.
Okay.
And when he finished that period and he was freed, he was able to earn a little bit of money, buy a piece of land and some cattle. And he approached a lawyer in town, Daniel Bliss, and asked him if he would take care of his affairs.
Right.
So when he passed away, Jack passed away. Daniel Bliss, he was a loyalist. So he was actually on the side of
the British. Yes.
And so he wrote this epitaph for John Jack. And in it, he kind of implied that the people of Concord, they were fighting for their freedom. The battle hadn't happened yet. This is a few years before it happened. And yet they still kept slaves here in Concord.
Right.
And so it's a beautiful, beautiful epitaph in honor of this freed man who was able to look after himself in the last years of his life.
And this new old friend and sister has been known, as I mentioned before, to have danced with Nelson Mandela.
Really?
He certainly did.
After she stood up to the bulldozers in South Africa on behalf of her Black brothers and sisters.
Well, you told her that we both have daughters in South Africa, right? I have a daughter in South Africa, yeah, from Gauteng.
You're Soweto? You're from Soweto?
My second son's wife, Sindiso, is from Soweto.
Wonderful.
And my daughter, Princess Seppi Moutlong, is from Gauteng. Yes.
Well, I lived in Gauteng as well for a while.
Really? And a good friend of mine, Nikki De Prima, she's now in the UK, but she's traveling back to South Africa. She's there now too. So we have deep roots.
Oh, and isn't it just a wonderful country?
Yes.
It's just beautiful.
Well, I look forward to finding out. I haven't been there yet.
You will find out, I hope, soon.
I look forward to that.
Meantime,
Yes, certainly. Thank you much.
totally unexpected.
And such a good pleasure.
Well, we know. I often wonder if I've got a bigger role here.
Well, yes, yes, and yes. The answer is as big as you choose. That's the truth.
Calvin, Shelley's son has done his doctorate work, if I understood her correctly, on slavery. And I'd like to put you both in touch because he's gone through the same kind of records that you've gone through to really to the original sources. Okay, great. So I'm going to connect you both.
Yeah, so he did his PhD at Leeds University.
Okay.
And he did his master's at Columbia and London School of Economics.
Yeah.
And now he's working at Glasgow University. That his PhD was in history. His thesis is all about slavery and the connection with the Americas, Spain, Portugal, and he speaks Spanish and Portuguese.
Yeah, I'd love to read what he's done.
His dissertation was about a couple that boarded a ship here in New Bedford. Okay. And they were not allowed into the kitchen or the dining room to eat. And she was very pregnant, and they almost forced their way into the kitchen. So he's been to this region a lot to do a lot of research. And I think you'd find, once the book is published, you'd find it very interesting.
Right. Well, if it's okay with you, I'll have Stuart connect us as well. One of my Goodwill ambassadors she's from the small island of Cabo Verde, but she speaks Portuguese, French, English, and Spanish. So we'd love to find ways to find the connections that we can.
To do that.
Excellent. So I'll leave it up to you, Stuart, to make sure we get connected.
Lloyd's going to be in town next week. You know.
Really?
And he's married to a Chilean. So, we all have very diverse families.
Shelley's husband do? You haven't heard about him.
My husband has been the businessman in the family. He did his CPA a long time ago, and he worked for Yum Brands for 19 years. And that's Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, and the fried foods.
But not in Concord.
And that enabled us to move around the world a lot, and for our sons to each get a very
cosmopolitan, perhaps would be a good word for that.
Are very cosmopolitan.
Yes.
But also very good education.
Let me ask you a question. What drew you from South America?
No, South Africa.
Weren't you in South Africa?
South Africa.
Yeah.
I thought you said South America. Sorry.
Oh, South Africa. So what drew you from South Africa to Concord?
Okay, so my husband was an angel. I do have faith. I do believe God will just here, actually. So it was to be true. My husband was transferred from Johannesburg, Gauteng, yes, to Dubai. And so we were there for 12 years. And in that time, we entered the green card lottery. I think you might have heard the previous president say about the people who won the lottery.
So this is what that means, huh?
They're no goods. We're the people that our country doesn't want, so they just ship us off and put us on the lottery system and we get into America.
Not true. Not true.
A lot of hard work and money goes
Got
into
it.
that.
Got it.
But we're very lucky to have got randomly selected.
Uh-huh.
So we were still in Dubai, and we hadn't decided where we would live in America when we do come.
Yeah.
And I came to visit some cousins who had just moved to Boston,
Mm-hmm.
or a little bit out of Boston. And they brought me to Concord.
Concord.
And so they took me to the first place was actually the North Bridge. And they told me about the battle that happened there between the English and the colonists, the militiamen. And I was totally fascinated. And then we drove out of town and I saw Louisa May Alcott's house.
Yes.
Emerson's house. I didn't know so much about Emerson. Louisa May Alcott, we had done Little Women at school in South Africa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was from the English stock in South Africa. The Afrikaners, they ruled the country, the Dutch.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's why we were able to do things like Little Women. And I called my husband in Dubai that evening and I said, I know where I want to live. He said, in Boston. I said, no, outside Boston, it's called Concord. Soon found out it's Concord.
Right.
And so I bought it 6 months later.
Mm-hmm.
Had a look around, both loved it. I had cousins just a little out that way, cousins in Lexington, and we fell in love with it. Got our same idea and feeling.
Mm.
And 18 months later, we packed up and we moved here, lock, stock, and barrel.
Wow.
My husband's working for another company now, German Doner Kebab, GDK, and I think you would enjoy the food. They're opening up restaurants. They've got a few in America now.
Okay.
It's got a bit of a Middle Eastern touch to it. It's like shawarma or a gyro. When they slice them,
Yeah.
you'll be very proud. Anyway, I did the history course.
Yes.
Once, 3 times.
Wow.
I finally got a job and I would visit to center, I do tours. And when people come, I just rave about Concord.
Well, make sure you get one of these.
I've got it.
Oh, really?
My
I found
son-
this a very popular book.
My son who does the Spanish
Can you
and
send
the
this?
slavery, he gave it to me for Christmas.
Ah,
about 3
wonderful.
years ago.
Wonderful. It sounds like people are moving. So,
Yes.
well, it looks like we have to go.